the first thing I tell people to do, if you're younger and your testosterone levels are low, why are they low? Okay. A lot of times they're low because people converted a lot of the testosterone into other stuff. And people forget this. Remember, testosterone can convert to estrogen. It can convert to DHT. One of the things I recommend people do nowadays also, because we're talking about technology, is you can have your DNA tested. I sell on my DavePalumbo.com website, I sell a DNA power test. They test like, I can't even remember how many genes they test, but they can tell you if you're good at producing testosterone. Do you aromatize a lot? Do you convert to DHT a lot? Are you capable of methylating folic acid? All these things that we know that can go wrong in your body's chemistry, and you actually can find out if your DNA is faulty in doing any of this stuff. And what I found out about myself, which I kind of already knew just by observation, is that I don't really convert a lot of testosterone to estrogen, but I'm a very, very high DHT converter, which makes sense because I had acne as a kid. Okay. At 30, I started losing my hair. Okay. And it was because I converted an enormous amount of testosterone into DHT. So I lose testosterone to DHT. Now, for a bodybuilder, that's not a bad thing because DHT is responsible for making you hard and making you aggressive and all these things. But there are guys that convert a lot of testosterone into estrogen. And you can tell they got that soft look to them. They get that little bit of pudginess in their face. And they have like, gyno, and they have like a little bit of water retention in their butt and thighs. And they have a soft look to them. In those people, just inhibiting that conversion of testosterone to estrogen can fix a problem. So it knows if I had a 29-year-old guy come to me and say, I have low testosterone. I said, well, what's your estrogen and DHT levels? He had him tested. His estrogen was like through the roof. I got his doctor to put him on an aromatase inhibitor a couple times a week. And his testosterone went up to 800. And he felt great. So he didn't need to take anything, but there are people that and I don't know if it's the environment now or environmental toxins or environmental estrogens out there. There are people that just have low testosterone, or maybe there was always people with low testosterone out there. In school, I was a good athlete, but there was always the kid who never got picked, who was sucked in sports. Maybe he just had a low testosterone level. My testosterone had to be high because I was a maniac when I was younger, super aggressive and stuff like that. So we're more aware nowadays of low testosterone because we test for it. No one ever tested for testosterone level when I was a kid or when a teenager. No one knew what their testosterone level was. Now you go on Instagram and everyone knows everything. You can actually send away and you could prick your finger and send it in and they'll tell you what your testosterone and your estrogen levels are. So we have more knowledge today. And so you have to find out what's the problem is. And if you don't produce enough testosterone, there's nothing wrong with going on hormone replacement or getting a little boost from some testosterone replacement. And the great thing about that is that everyone's like, oh, it's going to make you sterile and everything like that. And no, temporarily it might, but I could attest, and I put out I have a baby making protocol I designed, but I was on steroids for 13 years. I took anabolic steroids. I did hormone replacement for 10 years after that. So that's 23 years I was on something. Probably never got a girl pregnant. Never tried, but never got a girl pregnant during that period. And then I decided to have kids. And so I went off HRT. I went on my protocol that I designed with HMG, HCG, Clomid, glutathione, demineralized. And I had 3 kids. I actually had 4 because we had my ex-wife had a miscarriage for the first one. But so, it works. And I put this protocol out for free. I always tell people, just reach out to me and I'll send it to you. And there's not one person that it hasn't worked on. And it's a science experiment. So taking testosterone doesn't mean you're doomed to never have kids. It just means that temporarily you might not be fertile. And for most people, that's actually not a bad thing because a lot of times people don't get people pregnant when they shouldn't. And then when they try to get people pregnant, they can't. So I have no problem with even a young guy taking testosterone replacement if they legitimately don't produce enough testosterone.
There's no cure for this.